G'day Whiskey, welcome to week 12. So this is the last lesson I'm going to go live with. Over the last 12 weeks, I've taken the time every Monday night to go live with a lesson on MP just to help those of you who are doing it with us along. I know for myself, I pick up different things when I read when compared to listening. Hey Amy, how you going? So every time I'm taught the same thing but in a different way, I do pick up something new. So if you haven't watched all lessons that I've posted, they're in the top of the announcements section in our group. You can just go and click the welcome video, open up the text where it says see more, and you'll see a long list of all of the lessons that I've gone live with over the last 12 weeks, along with a bunch of other things that are really cool. So, Amy, I'm glad you joined us. As others join us, you're more than welcome to leave comments. I'll get back to them in as I can, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch over to presentation mode and start to deliver lesson 12. So, again, I'll say welcome to week 12. Today's lesson is all about working out where exactly you are, because for the last 12 weeks, you've had these good intentions, you started to implement some new things, and you've probably had a few bumps along the way. Now, all of this is real life and well below what we expect of ourselves. So the first program is all about setting realistic expectations. A lot of the time people say to me, I didn't think it would take this long to see the results that I want to see, or I didn't quite get the result that I wanted to see in the first program. And if you're saying those things, it's a sign that you're on the right track. Common sense prevails when it comes to, how long you've been struggling with your body shape for. Things aren't going to reverse themselves in 12 weeks. So the aim of this lesson is to really clear those things up. So let's get started. Now, one of the really cool things about Metabolic Precision is we use a tool that gives us a unique insight to your metabolism. Now, this is the only tool we can use that gives us an idea of how long it's going to take you to get results. So if you did the online program with us, you will have done this at the start. The only thing we're worried about in the first couple of programs is using this tool as effectively as we can, and I'll show you how we can use that effectively in a few moments. But the number one goal is to reduce this score. Now, if you're in the hundreds, so above 100, then it's going to take a couple of programs to start to really bring that score down. As your score comes down, your results, they start to compound. So they're slow to begin with, but they get faster and faster as you go along. As I said, this classification answers the question, when will you see results? And that's probably one of the biggest questions a lot of people have when they start a body transformation program such as this. They want to get a result, they want to get it fast, and not many people can actually tell them with certainty and with confidence how long it's going to take. Today, we're going to go through that questionnaire, and if you answer along as I go, you'll have a bit of an idea of, what you need to be focusing on. But the most powerful way to use this tool is actually submit this through the online system and get feedback on it, because what we can then do is break it down, and rather than having to work on 15 different things, you can work on just one and work on the one thing that is going to have the biggest impact. So most efficient, best bang for buck. Sounds pretty good to me, doesn't it? All right, so let's do the assessment. I'll just jump out of this screen and I'll take you into the online program. So I've already logged in here. If you have access to this site, then you'll be pretty familiar with it. If you don't have access to this site, this is your next step. Okay, this really personalizes the experience. With this site here, we can collate all the information we need on you, and you can view that at any time to know exactly where you are in your journey and what the next step is. So whenever you feel overwhelmed, you feel like you're not getting the results that you want, you can always log in, see what your last piece of feedback was, and start working on that straight away. So that's your choice. You can use that. You can do that. All right, so let's go straight to this questionnaire. It's in the stations section up here where it says metabolic classifying. Now, this is pretty important because it determines starting points and it determines the next step along the way. So we use this very frequently. This is the questionnaire here. I'm going to take you through as if I was taking a client through it. So this classification is designed to determine not only the state of your metabolism, but also a starting point. And every time you complete a metabolic precision program with us, we'll know exactly where you are and we'll use this as our guiding system. It's like a GPS almost. So question one, whether you wish to gain or lose weight, your body weight history provides important insights regarding the state of your metabolism. Are you currently happy with your current body weight? If not, how long have you struggled with your weight? Now, this is an interesting question because it's based on body weights, and there's a lot of information out there that sort of suggests you should disregard your weight. You should worry about your body fat versus muscle composition, or you should worry about your health, yada, yada, yada. Weight does matter. So it's a bit of an extreme view to say that you shouldn't worry about your weight. I can tell you right now, if you're, if you're 25, 26, 27 on the BMI scale, and you haven't been regularly lifting weights for at least 5 to 10 years, you're probably at a dangerous weight when it comes to how much body fat you have on your body. What a lot of people fail to really comprehend is how much body fat they are carrying, and they don't realize it until they start losing weight, until they really realize how much body weight they're carrying. I know I can drop 20 kilos and it'll have a really big, really good impact on my body, and that's saying something. I'm relatively fit. So body weight does matter. Your BMI does matter. It's not a tool, or it's not a single determining factor of health, but it is one determining factor of health that we need to keep in mind. So body weight history is important, and that's why we start off with that. If you've fluctuated for a lot throughout your life, then it's going to give us a clear picture of exactly why and what your metabolism is doing. The second question is age, and unfortunately, age does influence metabolism. So as we age, our metabolism changes. I know when I was 21, 22, I could get away with a lot more than what I can get away with now that I'm 27, turning 28. And every 5 years, your metabolism will do a little bit of a turnaround. If you're a female and you have had a child or a couple of children, then every time you've had that child or a couple of children, your metabolism goes into a bit of a tailspin as well. If you haven't, been very regimented or haven't had great habits along the way through those pregnancies or through your aging life, then your metabolism tends to tailspin even more. So age does influence how our metabolism works. Now, from research, there are population groups that have higher genetic predispositions for abnormalities in how the metabolism runs. Those abnormalities can lead to things like type 2 diabetes, where the insulin doesn't work well inside the body. And a lot of these ethnic groups are written here on the right. You've got Indigenous Australian and American, Mediterranean, African American, Polynesian descent. I'm Mediterranean, so I'm Maltese, so I am predisposed to some abnormalities, but that doesn't get in the way of my overall health. This is just one facet of the whole picture. Nutrition history. So here are the things that we can start to really influence on a daily basis. And we'll begin with how many diets have you been on? So a lot of people will tend to do a couple of diets throughout their lives, if not more, maybe a couple every year. Understand this, with every attempt, you damage your metabolism a little bit. So if you did do this 12-week program and then you went off and binged because you felt restricted for the last 12 weeks, or you go and find some other program to get faster results. Every time you do that, you may get a physical result, but the rebound gets bigger and bigger. And trust me, I've experienced this. Every time you use a program that restricts or cuts out nutritious foods to get a result, that result is short-lived, and the work to get the result back almost doubles every time you do it. So it gets a lot harder every single time you diet. And this explains why a lot of people get into their 30s and 40s and they've dieted a few times throughout their 20s and they find it really, really hard and diets don't work for them. For those people, it really becomes a process of eliminating and working on these things here. So question 5, nutrition history, breakfast. Fans of intermittent fasting tell you don't need breakfast, but breakfast has time and time again proven to be a powerful trigger that can shift your metabolism into fat burning mode or fat storing mode. Now, most of us, I don't know about you, I love breakfast, so I'm not going to not eat breakfast. That's unsustainable for me. So for me, I like to eat breakfast. I don't typically have breakfast kind of foods. So just understand that you don't need cereal, you don't need oats, and you definitely don't need eggs for breakfast. You can do a lot of different things for breakfast. A lot of your meals that are in the Cook Bible can be eaten for breakfast. It depends on how you go stomaching food at that time of day. Some people start off with liquid meals from chapter 4, and others can go straight into eating omelets and even as far as chili con carne and so forth. So breakfast is a powerful trigger, and depending on what you eat at that time of day, it then tends to set you up for the rest of the day. Question 6. Metabolically precise meals. So if you're just beginning the program, you're not going to know what a metabolically precise meal. But in short, a metabolically precise meal is a meal that burns fat and builds muscle. So that's all it is. It's a muscle building, fat burning meal that gives you energy, better health, and a better body shape. So it is not trademarked by any means. It doesn't have to have MP at the start of the recipe to be a MP meal, but it does have to fit a certain criteria to build muscle and burn fat. So if you don't know what that is, don't worry about it right now. If you do know what that is, rate yourself and have a think about how much you consistently have. If you're having 4 to 5 Monday through to Friday, but when it comes to the weekend, you're only having 1 or 2, well, you probably average out at 3 to 4. Okay, so be realistic with this. This isn't a test. This is a tool to use to really try and be as honest as you can and get a really clear starting point. So don't try and treat this as getting your score down as quickly as possible or beating the person next to you, beating your partner who's in the room. You want to be as honest as you can, and if you need to tick more than 2 of these answers, go ahead, because the more detailed you can get, the better off you'll be, and you'll be able to be helped a lot more. Nutrition history. So question 7 is all about MP programs. So how many MP programs have you completed and achieved very close to 95% compliance? That part is very important. So why have we chosen to use MP programs as a form of measurement? Well, they're all 12 weeks. So the more you do of them, obviously, the longer you've stayed compliant for. If you've completed a program with 95% compliance, that means for the whole 12 weeks, every week was 95% or more. Now, that for most people is a very hard ask. most people don't really start to hit 95% in one single program until they've ironed out all of the lumps and bumps over a 12-month period. Maybe in their fourth and fifth program, they really start to string together a 12-week program. But to begin with, most people do struggle going 95% for 12 weeks. That doesn't mean you're not going to get results, because all that's required for you to get a result is to eat better than what you've been currently eating. So if you look back 12 weeks ago and say with total confidence that you're eating better than you were back then things will start to move. And that's the real power of this program, is it asks for you to actually focus on what you're doing rather than what you think you should be doing. And if you do have the data there, you'll clearly be able to say, all right, well, I've only lost 3 kilos this 12 weeks week program. I'm not that happy with that. I'm not happy with that result. I can look back now on my 12 weeks and see where I've gone wrong. Next time I'll improve, and then I'll get a better result. And that's, it's common sense. It's as simple as that. If you are accountable, you are recording data, you'll have the information there to see where you've gone wrong and where you can go better and how you can get a better result next time. So, nutrition history, 8th question is all about omega-3. Now, if you've been watching any of our content, or you have done the program before, you will know that flaxseed oil is a big component of what we do. Why? Well, it's the easiest food source we can use to really drastically increase omega-3, but it's not the only one. You got your fish oils, you have fish itself, and there are leafy green vegetables, amongst other things you can incorporate with this high omega-3. Now, the reason we use omega-3 is to downregulate the inflammation that a lot of us Westerners have. We have this because our diets are very high in omega-6 and other fats. Now, doesn't mean that the other fats aren't healthy for you. It just means those fats, they promote inflammation, which indirectly affects a lot of other different things. For example, your fat metabolism, the results from exercise, and health in the long run. So if you think of every cell in your body like little balloons, if they're inflamed, they're blown up a little bit more than they need to be. And if you ever try to pop a balloon, it's much easier to pop a balloon that is overinflated than it is one that's underinflated. So if you've got these cells that are dying before their time, dying more rapidly than they should be, then in the realms of 70, 80 years, that's what shortens your lifespan. So we want to obviously lengthen our lifespan or increase the quality of life we have. That does come down to reducing that inflammation and therefore increasing that omega-3. If you look at all the blue zones in the world, places where people live well into their 90s and even their 100s, they are still doing activities and looking like they're 50 years old or 40-year-old versions of Westerners. That's how good they look at that age, because they have high intakes of omega-3. So moving forward, physical history. There's no moving past the fact that we are a sedentary population. So it's not like we run, jump, and hunt for our food anymore. We are sedentary. Because of this, we need to incorporate forms of exercise that promote the benefits we used to once get when we were that active. Now, the most efficient form of exercise is resistance exercise. In fact, it's so efficient, it's imperative that we use this as adults who are sedentary to maintain lean muscle tissue. The age-related muscle loss that we all experience underlines a host of unrelated illnesses, including type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and unwanted fat gain. So muscle is important. If you've seen the pie charts, you will see that it also contributes to 66% of our metabolic rate throughout the day. So the more muscle you have, the more energy you'll burn every day. So when you're answering this question, I'm not talking circuits, I'm not talking pump classes. When I'm talking resistance exercise, what I'm talking about is getting in the gym, lifting barbells and dumbbells in a planned and structured way. So when you visit the gym, you've got a plan. You know exactly what you need to do when you're there. You get in there, you do your sets, your reps, and then you leave. Every time you go into the gym, if you strive to increase the weight, then you've got what we call a very effective program. Now, if that program has been a part of your life for more than 12 months, then you started to lay the groundwork that needs to be there to really optimize the way your body burns fat and its shape. So don't go past this. Don't think you can, short circuit this with more cardio. You must do some form of resistance exercise if you are wanting to change your body shape. There's no two ways about it. That resistance exercise to be the most effective must be structured, it must be written down, and you must strive to increase the weight. Okay, this is FIRE. So this is what we call FIRE, and the acronym stands for Focused Intense Resistance Exercise. All right, physical history. So if you are performing resistance exercise and aerobic activity only a handful of times a week alongside the resistance program, then you're doing a good job. You've got yourself a great plan. If you aren't doing your resistance exercise and you are doing a lot of cardio, that cardio may potentially be short-circuiting your success. It may even be leading to and contributing to low energy throughout the day and the days after training, soreness, and even some health issues down the track. So balancing the cardio with your resistance is really important. Think of resistance as a form of exercise that brings nutrients into the body. It encourages your body to store nutrients, where cardio actually just sets a big old fire up in your body, and your body has to contend with the repercussions of that. So I'm not bashing cardio. Cardio is just as important as, cardio is important. You can't compare the two to each other. It's like comparing apples and oranges. You need to have both, and they both need to be balanced. All right. So as we go further on, these questions start to get a bit subjective, but still it does relate to how you view yourself. So again, be critical and try and be honest. Body composition, looking at this sort of stuff, you don't like to admit it, but sometimes we have to. I know I'm certainly not where I want to be, but when you are answering this question, have a think to yourself and ask yourself, can you really see your abs, or are you looking from a distance in the mirror just to be able to see the outlines of them? If you are only seeing the outlines, there's probably a chance that you are more softer rather than having or being able to see abs. I like to answer honestly and almost answer a little bit higher than what I am, just so that I have a clearer picture of where I'm at. Body composition, I store body fat on my hips and legs. It's the Maltese gene. Some people will store body fat on their belly only and not their legs. So there are metabolic repercussions that go along with where you store your body fat. You don't necessarily want to store it on your limbs. If you are storing it on your limbs, it's fat that's been there for a while. If it's on your belly, it's very fast to move. So if it is on your belly and you haven't been able to shift it, it's likely you're eating too much crap and it's staying there. If it's on your belly and it's not on your legs and arms, straight away I can say with total confidence that you're drinking too much, you're eating too much sugary foods, you're snacking on something somewhere. That needs to stop if you're going to move forward. Okay. So if anything, if you've done this questionnaire and that's really stood out where you're carrying your body fat, make sure you just let us know so we can focus on the areas that are going to be the most effective. All right, sleep. We're getting towards the end of this now. So sleep is a really funny animal. A lot of people underestimate it. I know I certainly did before I had kids. But now having kids, sleep has a profound effect on a couple of things. First of all, your appetite regulation. So Sleep deprived people are actually hungrier people. And if you haven't got your food habits in check, you'll eat more of what you're eating. So if you are the type to pick something quick and processed, then as soon as you have kids and you become sleep deprived, you'll get what's called the mum bod or the dad bod, because you eat more of what you are used to eating. Furthermore, it affects your carbohydrate metabolism too. So if you are somebody who eats a lot of processed stuff and you don't sleep very well, the way your body uses those carbs won't be optimal. It will store it as fat rather than use it for energy, and it won't store it in the muscle where it's needed. And there are very strong links between chronic fatigue and how much carbohydrates you have stored inside your muscles. The carbohydrates that are stored inside your muscles are utilized within the first 1 to 2 minutes of movement. So that's sprinting to grab your child who's running towards the road type of energy. Even playing with the kids, it's the energy we use before our aerobic system can catch up. So if you don't have it there, you're going to feel tired, lethargic. It's going to be hard for you to start anything. So sleep is very important. Metabolic blockers is next, and sleep does pop up again here. Chronic stress, poor sleep will affect your hormone levels. Alcohol obviously affects the way you store fat. It'll draw it towards the stomach. And the problem with having fat on the stomach is it encourages, or it actually increases the receptors involved in the hormone production that encourages more fat to the site. So it's sort of like a vicious cycle. If you get a little bit of body fat on your belly and then it goes unchecked, it'll start to accumulate very fast. Drugs, including medication, antidepressants, and smoking also affects your metabolism. And finally, rate yourself. So we want to see exactly where your mindset is at. If you are if you are clearly overweight but you're perfectly happy, we can see that there's obviously some disparity there. And as we start to go down the list, obviously it gets more realistic wherever you're at. That's the metabolic classification. If you don't have the classification, just email us. We can send it to you. If you have online access, you can do that at any point, anytime you wish. It's at the start and the end of every program, but you could check it halfway through the program and we'll be able to see how you're tracking along. That's no problem at all. If you aren't doing any MP programs at the moment, but you would still like to see what your metabolism is doing, I encourage you to PM us, email us, and we'll be able to send you through that questionnaire as well. It's a really cool tool to use. Like I said, we use it as our GPS. While we're here, I'll just show you real quick. This is the online program. I'll show you where your notifications and your tasks come up. This is probably my 7th or 8th program now. I'm not sure right now off the top of my head. But every week you get a list of tasks to complete. And each of these tasks makes you think of a different area of your transformation. Some of the things you learn about yourself are remarkable. In the first few programs, you're only really touching on your surface habits. A lot of people come to us and they'll know that they need to eat better. They'll know that they need to exercise. But over the course of maybe 5-6 programs, they really start to peel back the layers and start to see why they're self-sabotaging themselves, why they can never get themselves under control, and then actually fix it. I know my why has changed a lot over time. I won't go through that now. I've gone through that plenty of times, but even my habits change from program to program too. So there's some really powerful stuff in this program. It truly is a complete body transformation system. So back to the slideshow. The classification is as simple as adding your points up, seeing what your classification is, and then determining what your next step is. So the classifications that will pop up for all of you, or for most of you, will be A. Classification A is typically above 80 points. So if you scored more than 80 points, your metabolism is what we call shifted. So your carbohydrate metabolism is impaired, and the way your body utilizes the nutrients you give it is also impaired. So for somebody like that, you've focused on the numbers before and it's been to your detriment. You've probably tried quite a few diets in the past as well. And even at this point now, or you have your good intentions, but you can't quite seem to get through the whole day. You look in the cupboard for something at 2, 3 p.m. because you're looking for that sugar hit. You have those crashes. Even if you have a bit more willpower, you might be able to get halfway through a week, but something comes up. That's what we see a lot of. And for this type of person, it's going to be a journey. It's going to be a lot longer than you think it's going to be. But if you do start with that understanding, you'll actually get to where you want to get to, because the time's going to pass anyway. So I'd rather, instead of fluff around for 5 years trying 6-week challenges, 8-week challenges, I'd rather say, all right, well, this body shape thing of mine, this problem of mine, it's probably going to take 5 years to really get to where I want to get to. So I'm going to put away 5 years and focus on that. When you get to the end of that 5 years, you'll have the body you want and you'll keep it and you'll never be a problem again. And that's something that's really valuable, I think. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but if you're struggling for 20, 30 years, I know people who struggle for 20, 30 years and are in complete denial about their weight. They don't want to face it. And the fact that they've got all of these little nasty habits and critters that run around their house that affect their body shape, they want to completely turn a blind eye to. And health starts to deteriorate. You start to go, into a tailspin. One thing goes wrong and then something else goes wrong, and all of a sudden you're getting surgery for 100 million different things. That can all be avoided if you just put away the time it takes to get the job done right. So moving from a classification A to a classification B, your body will start to utilize nutrients a lot better and start to move towards an unshifted metabolism, back to a normal state. And this is where you start scoring between 60 and 80 points. When you start to score between there, you're on the right track. Your energy levels pick up, your cravings start to subside, all the good stuff starts to happen. If you keep going south, if you keep going towards 60, then you'll start to get to a point where you're really in control. And that's where the magical stuff happens. When you get below 60 and you are in control of your body shape, then you can put on muscle, you can burn body fat, you can do what you can go on a lean mass program if you want. You can really start to change things up and safeguard yourself for ever falling back to where you were before. I know some people get to a point where they've achieved their goals and they don't know what to do next. If you can't think of another goal, really hanging on to the goal that you achieved is something you'll need to work on, because for me, there's either moving forward or moving back in life. There's no standing still. So if you've achieved a goal and you stop focusing on another goal, then you'll likely slowly slide backwards. If you focus on another goal and you stay ready, you'll always be at a controllable, healthy, desirable weight and body shape. So that's it for me. That concludes this lesson on metabolic classification. Your next step is to do this. So if you don't have access to online, make sure you contact us. We'll send you through the classification assessment if you haven't got one yet, and submit it back to us for feedback. Once again, thanks for tuning in over the last 12 weeks. We're going to go live with some other topics over the next couple of weeks. So make sure you share your problems with us. Be really real with us, because we don't expect you to just be able to implement everything we've told you to. This is a process, and if you're jumping straight into it and you can do everything, then we have to question why you're even asking for help. So you haven't come to us because you haven't come to us because you don't know what to eat. Most people do know what they eat. Most people know that they need to do food prep. Most people know they need to go and exercise. What you've come to us for is accountability and staying accountable to those tasks that you need to do. So, yeah, make sure you share those problems with us, and we'll get those live feeds done. All right, guys, see ya. Thanks, Jack. Bye, mate. Matt, thanks for watching, buddy, if you're still on the line.